رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي فاذكروني يذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون صدق الله العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, apologies, the session couldn't happen last week. People understood from the message that the mosque had their own gathering, and again, we were only informed an hour before the hour I was going to start. So just again, where we finished off last time, and we all remember the path to hell, and we were talking about various stepping stones towards that path to hell. Because generally most people will not jump, let's say, straight feet first into hellfire. There's going to be a build up to it, yeah? And it doesn't mean that can't happen, but generally I'm talking about most people. So if I could just very quickly refresh, you probably will not, well, you most certainly will not remember all the stepping stones, but if I could just some shout outs on some that people remember, because look, we all are probably on somebody's stepping stone, that's quite obvious, and there's no shame in admitting that. I think it'd be far more dangerous if everyone said to me, oh, I don't think I'm on any of these stepping stones, and then I think that's probably a more worrying aspect. So if I just shout out from the brothers, any of the stepping stones that we remember?
Living in the moment.
Sister, if you remember anything? Anything else from the brothers? So look, forgetful of Creator, death, hereafter, following the crowd. I think that's usually one that hits home for most people, because we probably all do it to a certain extent in some limited form. I know everyone thinks they're unique, and we are, but false ideals, role models, sometimes we may think we don't have a role model per se, but as I said, check your phone and see what type of accounts you're following on your social media. That will give you an indication if you're looking at certain types of influences, and they really are influencing your life. Just a wrong and narrow way of life, which was obviously standing back, having that kind of eagle's view on life, rather than just, I can just see what's ahead of me and that's it. Following the ego, I think everyone knows that one. The dunya, indulgence and unlawful pleasures in this life, and sense of immortality and living in the moment. So we come to bad company. Now, why is bad company going to be a stepping stone for hell? Is simply that we've all heard, we've heard these that basically you're on the deen of your friends. Now, if you just break that apart, what does that actually mean? If you think about it, what does it actually mean? And am I really on the deen of my friends? What it really telling is that, look, your friends are an influence on you. Don't tell me they're not. They are. Because, look, you hang around them, you enjoy their company, you listen to them, you like to spend time with them. And if you do any of that, they're bound to have an influence on you. So, from that perspective, we have to understand, and our friends do have some kind of influence on us. Now, really, if you think about bad company, it's really a recruitment agency for Shaitan. He is using others to get you to him. So, think that my friends may not necessarily be the Shaitan, but Shaitan is using them to get to me, kind of thing. And sometimes your friends, let's say you've grown up as school kids, gone to college and so forth, and even university you've kept in contact, and now you're back home or something, you eventually get married, and you may still have friends from them networks. Now, for example, let's say you've turned towards the path of deen, and you started to make them steps, and the rest of your friends haven't. I'll give the brother's example. Imagine you're a bunch of group of young 20-year-olds who, let's say, weren't practicing. One of you starts practicing, and they used to go out every Friday, Saturday night, and so forth. The question then is, does their friends, have they now become bad company for you? You have to think, these friends may have been good,
but they've now become bad company for me. And so then you have to think, what effect are they having on me? Because let me tell you this, if, as you said, you may be average Muslims, you may be the Friday Muslims, and do that. But as soon as you start taking steps towards the deen and come, and I say outwardly more religious or pious, you'll find your friends don't keep up with you. And this can even work with husband and wife. If one spouse becomes more religious than the other, there's always one dragging the other, and it causes issues and tension and so forth. Now with friends, if you think about it, you may try to be encouraging them to pray more because you are praying more, but there may come a point where they are dragging you down. And generally, again, I'm afraid, if you have one good person in a crowd of bad people, the likelihood is going to be is that you're going to turn bad. Why? Because when you're seeing that sin being committed, when people are discouraging you from praying and stuff like that, you may be going out to do something, going to watch cinema, it's Maghrib time, you've missed a lot. You may think, okay, normally I might watch a movie and at least it's done before Maghrib time, or I'm conscious. But when you're with your friends, let's say you go to Manchester, I don't know, Printworks, I can probably tell you there's not many prayer rooms down there, are there? So now do you miss Maghrib because of that movie, because the friends prefer the late movie, not the early movie, and so forth? So it's again a stepping stone towards shaitan. And really you have to ask yourself this, and should always continually ask yourself, am I friends good company or bad company? And you have to be honest with yourself, because if you're not, you are the one who's going to lose out more. Tika, they, as you said, they will be accountable for themselves. But what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a slightly dangerous situation where any progress you make towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're putting it at risk. And I get this point. Friends, you may have known them years. You may be loyal to them. You've had lots of experiences together. But then sometimes you've got to think, well, okay, what's good for me here? Because I'm sure, let's say if you had two close friends and they end up being heroin junkies, you'd probably you're going to drop them, aren't you? But with these other things, we sometimes a bit more lax about it, thinking, they're my friends, I've known them for a long time, and just because I've come pious, then I shouldn't. Now, obviously, you can stay friends with them and give them dawah. I absolutely agree with that, and no one's saying ditch your friends overnight. But don't use that as an excuse as well. So don't conveniently think, okay, I'm only friends with them because I'm trying to give them dawah, because you know the truth. You know how much dawah you're giving. You probably know how much effect he's having on them, and so forth. So, don't fool. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself necessarily. Purposeless life. Ask yourself this question. Where do we hope to be in 5 years' time? So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds, a minute. Just talk to their partner and just ask them, or just tell them where you think you're going to be in 5 years' time. Quickly just think what job you'll be doing, where you'll be living, whether think you're married or not, and anything else that you think is relevant. So just quickly, 30 seconds to a minute, just talk to your partner, please, about where you think you hope to be in 5 years' time. Sisters already finished? MashaAllah, they're very clear. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jameer, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years' time?
I'm hoping to keep myself on the path.
Yep.
Career-wise, I don't really have a career, but I've got a job, so I'd like to think I'll be in the same job, and most likely the same house, same town.
Take it, that's fine. Adam Jr.
I said most likely I'll be in the grave, and whilst I'm living, I will try to mend the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
MashaAllah.
and work towards it.
Young Adam, gone. Let's see the other spectrum.
Probably be starting uni.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Probably be starting uni.
How old are you now?
17.
Okay. 17?
Yeah.
17 now?
Yeah.
Are you going to be starting uni when you're 22?
I'm on level 1 in college. So.
MashaAllah. There you go, there's a lesson. You shouldn't be starting uni at 22. That means you should be starting sooner. Adam Senior,
I said I'll be coming at the end of our friendship.
MashaAllah. Anything else?
I'd say same town. Hopefully still on the path.
Anything else? Marriage?
No.
No, definitely no. Sisters, one year, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years' time? So maybe career, location. Sorry, say that again.
You think whatever you do, think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yep.
Life is change every day.
Yes.
Step.
I mean, look, that's still a good answer, as you said, because look, sometimes who says you have to look in 5 years' time? But generally, we all have some kind of purpose in our life. As you said, young Adam is thinking about education and so forth. Jamel's just thinking, okay, well, inshallah, I'll still be on the path. I'll still be in a job and so forth and stuff like that. So we've all got some kind of different purpose in our life. And so really, what I'm trying to say, if we're purposeless, if somebody has said to me, don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years' time, it's probably right because we actually don't know where we're going to be in 5 years' time. So it's actually technically correct. Because no one can tell me exactly with certainty where they're going to be in 5 years' time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give Uncle Iqbal a long life. I might remind him in 5 years' time and say, you said you were going to be in the grave. You're still here, Uncle Iqbal, mashallah. So in that respect, we all think we're going to be somewhere in 5 years' time. Now, what I'm saying is, it's good to have a focus in terms of career, marriage, location. All them factors are good. Those are not haram, and we should think about them. But also just think in terms of deen, as he said. Whatever position you're today in your deen, I would not want you to be at that same position in 5 years' time. Why? Because does that mean you're still at the same place? No, it usually means if you're still in deen, you're going backwards. If you're not progressing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going backwards. That's the reality of it. No one should be at a standstill position in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, we should all have a purpose. We want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And clearly, the latter weeks of this course will probably tell you, okay, that's fine, how to achieve that from that perspective. And then just heedlessness. It's kind of linked to that in terms of we've got this purpose, okay, we want to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in 5 years' time. Okay, how am I going to achieve about it? How am I going to achieve it? Am I going to get diverted? Am I going to get distracted with money, wealth, kids, husband, wife, this, that, the other? All these are factors which could divert us from getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in 5 years' time. And so really then it's about this being aware that am I going to forget that purpose? You know, if you're driving and you forget where you're going, or forget even you're driving, usually it's going to have some bad consequences. No one drives aimlessly, generally speaking. We all know where we're going and we stay focused on that. And then we have laziness. Anyone who's not lazy, put their hand up. Good answer. So we've all got elements of laziness. And so it's simply, laziness is what? It's a choice you make, isn't it? That's the reality of it. It's a choice we make. And does anyone know the solution to laziness? Come on, Jamil, tell me.
Would you say discipline?
MashaAllah, Jamil, you spoke without moving your lips there. I don't know how you manage that. It's quite simple. If you're lazy, it means you're not doing something. You just got to do it, haven't you? Yeah, yes, discipline is part of that. You just got to simply get off your backside, isn't it? That's the reality of it. There's no magic solution, no magic pill. You know when you're lazy, you know you got stuff to do. The only way you kind of break that is just simply by getting up and doing it. there's no long complex answer to that, and that's it. So we all suffer from it, but really the solution is very easy as well. It's not something which is going to complicate us or require great mental faculties that we need to see what the solution is to that.
I think heedlessness and laziness has a link.
Gigi, yes, absolutely, yeah.
The heedlessness is something which is something is important, but you don't do it.
Correct.
You don't do it. So laziness is part of that.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. There's an interlink with many of these things, as you said. There's an overlap. It's not just distinct, separate wholes, as you said, from that perspective. So yeah, absolutely, there's an interlink into everything from that perspective. So then, now we've got these, we've gone through all the stepping stones, and then we have what we call basically 4 big volcanoes, 4 great big evils, which really these stepping stones lead towards that. And the first one is to have what we call false beliefs. It's pretty fairly standard in terms of Aqidah, in terms of having certain doubts which can put, one's iman in doubt, as he said. So if you didn't believe in the last day, if you didn't believe in the hereafter, then you've got a major flaw in the core of your beliefs. And alhamdulillah, I think most people get the main tenets of that. Sometimes we can unknowingly start questioning, let's say a calamity happens and people say, oh, why me? And kind of thing. And if you just follow that through, you're saying, God, why have you, you're questioning God, aren't you? So I think sometimes whilst we may accept the major beliefs we've got right, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes the things we say, we start putting ourselves in that dangerous zone in terms of we're questioning what God's decree and will is, as he said. So just something that we should really kind of be careful about from that sense. So ignorance, to be ignorant about basic Islamic laws, about wudu, ghusl, salah. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask anyone, name me all the fraids, all the sunnahs, and all the wajibats. But really, we need to know the basics. Why? You might think you're doing so many good deeds, you're praying so many salah, you're doing all the farz salah, you're doing sunnah, mafal. Imagine you've been doing your wudu wrong. Such a small thing, and yet you might be thinking you're doing great deeds. You'd be surprised how many people still don't know what are the fries of ghusl, and it may be a case that they're have been walking around impure because they weren't taught or didn't listen or have chosen not to do it. So we should all firstly look at ourselves and think, do we have that basic knowledge? And then we should pass that on to our kids, our families. No one's asking you to be an alim, no one's asking you to be a mufti, and so forth. These are just basic tenets, as he said, that which everyone should know from that perspective. Persistence on sin. So this is really like a major, volcano, as we call it, in terms of the path to hell. And really what this means is, so look, doing a sin and having despair at that sin and repeated regret, not a problem. Why? It shows that you still have something inside you which is having that regret, having that tawbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that. What we're talking about here is continually doing certain evil deeds and simply having no remorse, regret about them. So most people, when they're committing these sins, have that mental torture inside, they know they're doing it and they don't really want to do it, and the mind is going through that. That's really a good sign. So that's a positive sign. And so but don't worry about that, the fact that you're worrying that you committed sin too much. See that as a positive sign. Far worse be where nonchalantly you're committing sin after sin. Doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you. You don't get that internal feeling that actually I'm doing wrong. That's really the most serious one, and that's something we should need. But really, again, where does the solution lie here? If we're being steadfast on sin, flip the coin. If you were steadfast on avoiding that sin or doing the deeds, then that's a plus point. So in one sense, if you're continually sinning, it shows you've got a level of steadfastness. You just need to repurpose that towards doing good. And we all do that in terms of, look, so the person who goes to the gym continuously 3-4 times a week, month after month, they're showing a level of steadfastness. That same brother, like I said, he may have big muscles, eats all the protein, eats properly, has all the milkshakes. No, Heather, I'm not looking at you. Basically, if he applied that same level of steadfastness to deen, imagine how he would progress. So when we see somebody, let's say he's not praying, but he's steadfast on a particular aspect, gym or whatever, even careers, can you imagine if you just employed that same level of steadfastness towards deen and how far you would progress? And it's not a big change in that sense, it's just you're flipping the coin. And we come to, there's many great stories. One is obviously Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid, that they were a great warrior and many Muslims died at the hands of their sword. And they were a great big thorn in the side of the Muslims. But when they came on the path, that sword, they went to hand it to Prophet ﷺ saying, I'm kind of done. What did the Prophet ﷺ do? Hand the sword back to him and say, now use that sword in fighting for Islam. So can you see, look, that same sword committed so many atrocities against Islam. But they did that repivot, the same sword, has led him to Jannah. So if we think about anything that we're doing in our life, we can repurpose it to a good thing. So, and he's a great one of the greatest examples of somebody who committed, lots of wrongs. But as we all know, when you revert, the slate is wiped clean, isn't it? The slate is absolutely wiped clean. And then look what an asset he was for the deen. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala was on his way to kill the Prophet ﷺ. And yet look, what is his station now? He could have been, imagine if he had done that heinous act, a'udhu billah. He would have been the worst of the worst. But yet look, where is he now? One of the greatest. And so we all, in our own way, we have that kind of opportunity to do that. It doesn't matter what sins we've done, what sins we're doing now. Doesn't matter how we have treated people. Tika do Salat al-Tawbah, we'll repurpose that life. I understand, don't worry, when you do turn, people say, oh, look at him, he was the same guy who was doing this before, or she was the same sister, you should do this, didn't wear a job, she used to do this, she used to do that. And yet, they may have repurposed their life, and people like myself, we bring them down. Why? Because we want to remind them about the past and negative. But if they've made the change, we should be encouraging that. So we all have that, within us. And if other people do it, we should be seen to encourage it rather than, kind of put them off it. And that really ties in again with that pursuing of evil desires. The person who commits sin now will go to so much effort, so much planning. But again, if we did that in terms of deen, planning, where would we be? So like, the point being that the worst person, the gangster, he can be one of the best people and has the capability of it. And we all have that within ourselves. It's good to think we were the worst people, we did lots of bad things. That's a plus sign. And sometimes what we do is we may downplay our own sins. Oh, well, I may have committed a few sins, but I'm not as bad as that person. That's probably not the right path. Better think you have been one of the worst people, but just change it. It's just a flipping of the coin. And that's all it is really. That you've seen the stepping stone towards Pascal. You've seen these great 4 big volcanoes. False beliefs, ignorance, persistence of sin, pursuing evil desires. All the stepping stones lead towards these. And if we are on these stepping stones and we are on these volcanoes, then I'm afraid you are on the path to hell. there's no point running away from this. There's no point trying to dress it up. We have to be true to ourselves and realize we are on the path to hell, and that we need to do something about it. So the good thing is you've come to learn about the path to hell because you want to know about it. You've taken them steps. And then obviously in the following weeks, you'll be taught, how do I kind of get away from this path to hell and repivot and repurpose my life? It's never too late. Is it, Uncle Iqbal? It's never too late, is it?
No.
Absolutely. And there you go. You've got a 20-year-old man telling you that now. It's never too late. So we don't have this negativity that TK for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, you may have done the great healing science, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving.
You mentioned something about young people having a company and not able to give up.
Ji.
It's even worse when you're older, because you invested all that time. You're 50-year-old, you have the same circle, and for you to give up that circle and go into, for example, Tazkiyah Nafs, and that is, for older people, it's more difficult to give up that circle than the younger person. We always give example of younger people, but you pick numbers, older people, over 50, have turned the corner and gone to Tazkiyah. It's much more difficult for older people to do that. Why? Because younger people, 22, 30, 25, that's the time they spend. And the older person, they spend 50 years, 60 years. For them to cut the ties of the friendship and the society is much more difficult.
Correct. And look, what Uncle Levi in short is saying is, look, you're making that hurdle bigger and taller for yourself, aren't you? But no, you're going to have to jump that hurdle. Now, you can make it as easy as you want or as hard as you want, as he said. And so really, don't even think sometimes now when you're younger that, what is my company like? It has a massive effect on you. It's quite obvious. We know, look, if you hang around, let's say, 5 people who are praying 5 times a day, and you've come from a background where you don't pray, and if I said you're going to spend the next 6 months in their company 24 hours a day, we know what's going to happen. You're going to end up praying, aren't you? That's the reality of it. And vice versa. Okay, we're not going to them extremes, but really we should, especially like Uncle Iqbal said, it's something you may not realize till it's never too late, but you get into your elder years and you realize your company's been wrong all your whole life. So really concentrate on that company now, because it's going to help you. You can still be your own shaitan, you can still be your own, commit your own sins, but having that right company will always, inshallah, help you and protect you. Why? People will be looking out there for you.
Imam Ghazali says if you haven't turned the corner until 40, it's most likely you're not going to turn the corner. It's not impossible to start doing tazkiyah, but if you don't book up before 40, that is ingrained in you. So you young people are very lucky. So you are in this course.
Jazakallah khair for attending again. We like to keep these sessions short and to the point. So inshallah we'll be back on next week as well, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu